Hello everyone, I'm Alyce, this is Sean, we are the Bumbling blogger, and we are here today to discuss the YA Book Prize 2022 shortlist in its entirety with spoilers, so if there are any of the 10 books that you haven't read yet, go away.
Roll intro?
So, if you have been on this channel before, then you will know that every year we read the YA Book Prize shortlist, which is 10 books.
Link in
Somewhere around this area. And last year we did a very intense vlog, and then we did a huge old discussion between the two of us about which books we liked the most, which books we liked the least, how we would rate them. We have a very intense Eurovision scored rating scale, which Sean had completely forgot about.
Yeah.
But basically, like, the top book gets 12 points, the second book gets 10 points, the next book gets 8 points. And then all the way down to 1 point to work out who the winner is. Something like that. I can't remember how we did it last year. We might have to refer to that before we do the scoring. But let's do the talking a bit first. So, are we going to do it in order of how we read the books?
Yes.
Yeah. So, we will start off with
Our first reread.
And
my only reread.
Yeah, Sean's only reread. First Day of My Life by Alyce Williamson. So, do you want to share a little bit about the book, or should I?
You.
Me?
You remember it more than I do.
So, First Day of My Life is a story of 3 friends. We have Frankie, we have Jojo, and we have Rami. And Frankie is convinced that Jojo has kidnapped a baby. It's their GCSE results day. A-level results? No, GCSE results, definitely. And Frankie is expecting to meet with Jojo to go and collect their results together because they're best friends, they do everything together. And Jojo never turns up, and when she disappears, a baby is kidnapped in the local area. So Frankie gets this crazy idea into her head, and
she puts 2 and 2 together.
She puts 2 and 2 together and gets 7 or 12, yeah. And so she calls on her ex, who is Rami, and
because he drives and
he drives and she doesn't, and so they go across country to Swindon, where we are from, to track down Jojo and see what the heck is going on.
And antics ensue.
Chaos.
Yeah. And then they get to Swindon, and then there's a big fight because, dun dun dun, it's not her. She's not kidnapped the baby.
It is her baby.
It's her. It's the runaways, which is Jojo. It's Jojo's baby with Rami, who is
Frankie's ex.
Who had a one-night stand?
Yeah, and Frankie had no idea.
With Jojo on New Year's.
Like, stress, because Jojo hadn't told her, and Frankie's like, but we tell each other everything. The betrayal.
And just like, same thing as I said last time I think you read it, it's just like really awful toxic female relationships.
He thinks it's toxic, I think it's fucking awesome. I love this book.
I don't.
But you're wrong. He loved it enough to be able to sit through 2 rereads without complaining about it until after we finished the second reread. So I feel as though
you reading to me.
You like the writing style enough.
I let you read Guinevere Deception to me.
Yeah, but you didn't let me read the second or the third one,
no.
did you?
No.
So I had to do that by myself, but we're not complaining about that at the moment. So, you don't like it. Is there anything else you want to share other than the female friendships are toxic and you don't like it?
It's interesting because she goes to Swindon, Jojo.
That's all Sean likes.
Yeah. And she like has to like deal with being a single mother and like her plan because her mum and stepmum want to kidnap the baby and raise it as their own to maintain their like level of poshness and like status.
Kidnapping it, they want to adopt the baby because they haven't been able to do IVF or surrogacy. No, it's IVF. They can't have another round of IVF because of the fact that Jojo exists.
They can have IVF, they do it privately, which is
very expensive.
£17,500.
Yeah, so basically they've been, I don't think intentionally, but they haven't been very considerate towards JoJo's feelings about it. So they have made her feel as though she's responsible for the fact that her parents can't have another child.
I definitely think the stepmom...
and can't have their own child because she isn't the child of them both. She was the child from the marriage, and then that broke down.
Yeah, I definitely think the stepmom 100% is manipulating it. I don't like her.
No, I got it more this time around. Stacey, I think her name is. It's very.
And she's a psychologist.
Very manipulative.
She's a psychologist who was the mum, JoJo's mum, her teacher.
Yes, they did like a college course.
Yeah, so it's like that's like definite red flags there. Like, hang on. You shouldn't be dating your students, no matter what age. That's like definitely in that.
It's different if you're like a grown up.
No, it's not. it still has that power dynamic, which is like not cool.
That is true. I do wonder if that might have been part of the choice between giving her that career.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think that the exploration of family is very interesting. Because all of that going on, I've not seen that explored in YA before. There's probably books that have done it that I'm just not thinking of, but I've seen that more in like TV soaps, in like dramas where they've pretended that the kid is actually the sibling.
I've only seen it done once or twice, and it just kind of sucks.
I think it's an interesting one to see in a book, though. It's definitely an interesting plot line to explore. The way that JoJo reacts to it. The way that Frankie reacts when JoJo tells her.
Frankie becomes a massive asshole at that point.
Wow. No, she doesn't. Not when JoJo's telling her about her mum.
Yeah.
She's very supportive about the mum.
Yeah.
She's upset about JoJo and Rami, but I think she wouldn't be...
Too far.
She wouldn't be upset if they told her, though. And I just think honesty is the best policy in that kind of situation.
It is, but...
If they just told her at the time, she probably wouldn't have been that mad about it. She would have been upset, don't get me wrong, but I don't think it would have been like oh my god, you've got a fucking child together and I'm only just finding this out.
They're like, that like weird like girl code and bro code like that. Useless. Yeah. Throw it in the bin.
But it's real though. People genuinely think that way.
I know, it's really weird.
People get very possessive.
Yeah.
And it's not like other humans aren't belongings. You can't just take your daughter's kid because you feel like owning it. Like that's not how it works.
I think the author, I can't remember her name,
Lisa Williamson,
could have done a lot more about like how guys and girls react to like going like betrayal differently.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like the fact that they slept together, is it JoJo?
JoJo is the parent.
Frankie is mad at both of them.
Yeah. She's
mad at Rami and
JoJo.
God, names.
Sean is very good with character names.
And it's a bit weird because she's obviously mad about the child and the cheating on them. But Rami's not really like mad. He's just kind of like disappointed and confused.
Yeah.
And he's like, it'd be really interesting to like see more of that because like guys and girls definitely react to situations differently.
I do feel like it could have been longer. Like, I think it's definitely a snapshot. Like, it does what it says on the tin. It is the first day of the life, really.
I mean, it has a prologue. It's a bit trash.
You've got some... Oh, wow. Sean is not holding back. We're on the first book and he's calling it trash. Dang. Parts of it. But, like, where we've got the flashbacks in here, you do get a lot more of it. But I think... It is like the first day of JoJo's life as a parent because it's the first time that she's had the freedom to be able to parent, and it's the first day of Rami's life as a parent as well because it's when he discovers that he is a father. So I do think it tells a very specific story, and it does a very good job of exploring everything that happens in there. But I really liked these characters and I wanted to see more of this story. I liked the fact that you get like an epilogue that explores a little bit more of the future, but it would be nice to have more with this one.
I liked Rami. I liked Rami's family.
Yes.
I liked Frankie's dad.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I can't really remember Frankie's dad.
JoJo's dad.
JoJo's dad, yes.
Sorry.
Frankie's brother was quite fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, it's very fleshed out.
I think this book could have done with a co-writer as a male and made it a bit like bigger.
Ooh, would give it more of contrasting voices.
Yeah, because again, this is one reason why I feel it really hard to when characters are so similar. Can't remember their names.
Yeah.
It's like the mother, the asshole friend, and the father.
Yeah, it's a good way of summing it up.
Or maybe not asshole, selfish. She's very, very self-involved because she has no idea that like Frankie, no, Jojo actually had feelings for Rami way before they started dating. Like in the flashbacks, it's explained that like she's like kind of liked him the whole time. And Frankie's just completely ignored. It's like Rami's mine. Yeah. Shall we
move on to the next book?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the second book that we read was The Crossing by Manju Man.
Yeah. This is a written in verse book about a guy from a totalitarian African country,
Eritrea.
Yeah, and his journey, like his escape from the country, and then like crossing many borders to get to France, and then to cross to Dover and into England.
I don't think it's Africa. I think it's the Middle East.
Is it the Middle East?
But I'm not 100% sure because it has been a couple of months since we read it already, but I'm pretty sure it's the Middle East.
Well, he crossed it. He's escaping a totalitarian dictatorship, and his journey to England to hopefully find
a better life.
A better life as a refugee.
We also have another perspective, who is Natalie. Her mother has just died, and she is coming to terms with her grief. Her brother is getting involved in far-right groups, like gangs.
I don't even think they're like far-right. I think they're just very much, they're very much like anti-immigrants, anti-refugees, anti...
Well, I would describe it as far-right because there's a lot of like violence and campaigning in the street.
We don't know anything else about them. They might be just like crazy, like people like... We can call them far-right because I think it's actually described.
It's easier to describe it as far-right because people will know what it means straight off. Like, technicalities are not really necessary in this discussion.
Okay, that's what things... Some things deserve some nuance.
Okay, fine. Did you like it?
And she is trying to raise money for charity by swimming the crossing. The channel crossing. And Sammy, our refugee, is going to cross the channel, hence the name The Crossing.
Yeah. Did you like it?
Yes and no. I thought it was quite middle of the roading. There's Sammy meets up with 5 other refugees.
You're holding up 3 fingers.
Sorry. Wow. Sammy meets up with 5 other refugees.
This is going well.
Sammy meets up with 5 other refugees along the way. First at the original smugglers to get out of the country, and then he separates from them, joins some other groups. At one point, they separate. And he goes on the boat, and they separate again because he keeps getting smaller and smaller groups. And it kind of shows, like, that some places aren't quite what they are shown to be from as like a refugee. Like, oh, this place is like will welcome you with open arms. I can't remember what country it was, but it's very much not, because he literally is a refugee who was escaping with literally nothing. He has no.
Isn't it France? Like he's trying to get.
It's not. He's
citizenship.
He's not there yet.
France.
This is before they have the mini boat crossing.
Sorry.
I can't remember what country that is, but it's like there's actually like seedier bits of places. His friend drowns. His childhood friend.
Yes.
Drowns. I'm really sorry. We can't remember the people's names, and we've been trying to find reviews of people, and you can't find anyone reviews apart from just like his friend.
Yeah. As you can tell from the first book, Sean's not great at retaining characters' names, and I have not really retained anything from The Crossing, which I am sad about.
Yeah. So he meets up with another boy from the very beginning of when he was escaping the country, and they smuggle themselves onto a lorry. And there's a huge gap of time. It says something like it's like 30 or 40 hours. We're in the back of the lorry. And they get to France, and I'm like, oh, I kind of like want to see more of their journey through the other countries.
I don't remember.
Oh, and then when they're in France, the lorry driver finds them, and I think that's supposed to be the best singular scene in the whole book, where the lorry driver finds them, and he just doesn't do anything, and they run off, and then they hear shouting behind them, and it's him, and he gives them a bag of food, and he shouts something in French, and then goes back to his lorry. I think that's possibly like the best singular scene in the whole book. And he's in France, and he meets up with another boy from Pakistan who has his citizenship rejected, and Sammy eventually has his citizenship rejected, so he decides to do the crossing himself.
To swim it,
yeah.
Like we are watching Natalie do from the other perspective.
Yes, from another perspective, Natalie and her friend from school, I think it is. They want to raise money because her mum...
Oh, yes, because they have... there's a refugee who is at their school, and he gets badly beaten by the not far-right gang that her brother is involved in. In fact, it might be her brother that attacks him.
It's alluded to that it might be, but I don't think we actually have a conclusion.
I have a feeling it is, and I think that's why Natalie is so responsible for wanting to raise the money. So
I thought that was another thing that we found out that it actually was.
Oh, possibly no.
There's a couple bits that I'm like, it's. I don't think her brother. Except in the book, her brother gets arrested and sent to prison.
But I think it's for something else. I think it's
else,
for criminal damage, isn't it?
Yeah, but like there's like a lot of things that like happen off page
that are implied that it may be him.
They're reported to the news, and it's like that group. It's the group that the brother has joined that are committing these horrendous acts.
Yeah.
And horrendous violence.
So she decides to kind of take it upon herself because she's been a bystander. She's seen him getting bullied and she hasn't stepped in. She's seen him struggling to settle into school and hasn't stepped in because she hasn't thought that it's really her place to do it. But her mum used to work with refugees when she was still alive, so she feels as though her mother would have been disappointed with her if she didn't speak out, she didn't use her voice. So her way of using her voice is to raise money doing this swim.
And one thing that connected Natalie to her mother was that they both loved swimming.
And her mother wanted to swim the channel before she passed away.
She wasn't ever able to. Yeah. And then she got by cancer and was taken far too soon.
Yes.
Which, as always, cancer sucks, everybody.
Yeah. I mean, that's something that we can all agree on.
Yeah. And she's raising a lot of money. And I think it's kind of... I think she should confront her brother. I think she confronts him like a little bit. But
I think she tells her dad, doesn't she? And then the dad kicks him out.
But the dad...
But she could have spoken to him earlier, definitely.
Yeah, she's very much she has like her finger on the pulse of like what's sort of happening.
Yeah,
because she's getting more and more involved in refugees. And and
her dad is obviously understandably very depressed because of the fact that he's lost his wife, so it's kind of discussed that he doesn't really have enough time for the kids anymore, and I think that's another reason that the brother finds his family elsewhere.
They're council flats?
Yes.
And they're being kicked. No,
I think that they can't afford it anymore.
They can't afford the rent.
Yeah. So they're trying to move into like another estate.
But the brother is over. Built. The brother's over 18.
So he has to get his own job and get his own place.
He doesn't count as a residence, and the only place they can find them, because the daughter is almost 18, is like a 1-bedroom shared house flat thing, which is not the best. And her dad is basically like his singular mission is to find somewhere for them to live. So he's not really aware that his daughter's raising money for charity, or her brother.
No, he's quite involved in the swimming. The swimming's kind of what brings him back out of his funk because he's coaching her. Oh, it does take him a while, but he's coaching her, and when she says what she wants to do, he's kind of the one that gives her the push and gets her back into it. So it's how they kind of reconnect.
Yeah, but I think because the dad is focusing on himself and trying to find a place to live. And it takes him a long time to get into Natalie's life. I think the brother just kind of slips, and he slips too far. And like, as a guy myself, like we need some sort of guidance for like a long time, like some sort of mission to like focus on and put energy in. Otherwise, we just don't know what we're doing, and we'll get taken in by the wrong people because they're very manipulative at knowing how to like apply to that like father-son need that need so much.
Yeah, because the leader of the group is very kind of charismatic. Like, he knows what to say to get people incensed and to get people on his side.
And everything the brother's doing is like a favour, and it's like he's helping out. And like it starts off with just like a little bit of like cash in hand jobs, like cleaning houses and stuff, and it eventually escalates like, oh, we'll go to the pub afterwards, and then like just gets up and up and up. And it's like such a it kind of makes me want to read a book that she's written about a cult. Because I think she'd do quite good.
Yeah, she could do
or
good
some
cult
sort of something like that.
That would be interesting. Yeah. Moving on to the way that it's written, I think it's very clever because the dual perspective actually switches based off of a word in the sentence. So if Natalie is looking out the window and looking at the stars, when it gets over to Sammy's perspective, stars will be glistening in the sky. So it's like the same word ends and starts the perspectives, so the switch is very easy. I'm wondering whether if we'd read it physically it may have been easier, because we did read this one on the Kindle, and there were times where I was just completely thrown because the word would be a very common word that you might not necessarily realise was the connecting, and it isn't until you're a couple of sentences in that you realise it switched again. It was nice that it flowed very smoothly, but it was a case that because it was something like 320 days before, then 319 days before, then 316 days before, but then when it gets a bit closer there's huge jumps, so you might go from like 150 days before to like 90 days before to 12 days before, and so it goes from being intensely like day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6, day 7, day 8, very chronological, filling in all of the gaps, to suddenly having these huge jumps, and it makes the second half of the book feel very rushed.
It very much felt like there was like a sort of a pacing issue.
Yeah, by the end of the
book published and it's out the door.
Yeah, it felt like the beginning was so beautifully crafted, and every aspect of both Natalie and Sammy's lives was being explored. And it felt like there were a lot of threads that got weaved that just kind of cut off quite suddenly. Some of the plot lines weren't followed through the way that I would have wanted them to be. And they just felt like they were left hanging a little bit because of the fact that it got quite rushed.
Yeah.
So I struggled with it for that reason.
I didn't get any of the like switching of the words because obviously I wasn't reading it.
Yeah, I was reading it out loud to Sean, so I would just switch the voice I was reading it in.
Yeah. There's one bit we didn't mention. There's like because obviously it's a book and it's poetic licensing. I got it right. I've been getting that word wrong so much recently. He has
been getting it very wrong.
There's I think there's a newspaper that Sammy's photographed in, and Natalie finds it.
Yeah.
And she recognises him because he appears again on a news broadcast when they are taking the boys out of the ocean when Sammy's childhood friend dies.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he's in France,
in Calais,
there's like a little refugee camp, and he sees her in the van driving away
because she's doing volunteering to help raise money for the refugees and raise awareness for her swim.
Because she's doing like she goes over to Calais.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Calais is the French one, to like hand out food and hand out food and clothes and everything, sort of help there. And as they're driving away, he's running after her. And eventually they do actually get in contact over Facebook.
I think so. Either Facebook or email.
Yeah.
But it's well written, because even though it's very much poetic license, like it wouldn't really happen in real life, but it's a nice way of weaving these two very separate stories that you can't see how they're going to come together. And it is a very subtle way of bringing them together.
I think that's like the best. Like, it's like such a good way.
Yeah.
Like little bits.
Yeah, because I had no idea. I wasn't sure whether it was going to be two separate stories for the whole book. So it was nice to have not only the overlap with The Crossing, but to actually have an overlap where the characters met and interacted as well. Very well written. I'm looking forward to reading Run Rebel, which was Manju Man's debut novel, because I've heard very good things about that one. I've actually heard more about that than I had about The Crossing, so I was surprised to see this shortlisted.
It was a Costa book, wasn't it?
I think so. But yeah, definitely an author to watch out for. And there's normally at least one verse novel on the shortlist, so it's good to see that they're still mixing it up and having a few different formats on these shortlists.
Should we
move on to book number 3?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, book number 3 will be...
Overworld?
No. Hani and Ishu's Guide to Fake Dating by Adiba Jagada.
That one.
That one. Sean says... Oh, he hates all the books I like. It's his thing.
I don't hate all the books you like. I just hate 90% of them.
I loved it.
If we ever do merch, that's got to be like our t-shirt. I hate all the books you like. I hate all the books you love.
Shh. I loved it. I thought it was great. That's all I've really got for you. Yeah. So, Hani and Ishu's Guide to Fake Dating does what it says on the tin. There's a girl called Hani, there's a girl called Ishu, and they make a guide to fake dating. So, Hani is bisexual, and she comes out to her friends, and they are very biphobic. They're saying that she just doesn't know what she wants, she's doing it for attention, she's never dated a girl, so how does she really know? All the typical...
She has dated a guy?
She has dated a guy, yeah.
It's an all-girls school as well.
Yeah,
so they think she's literally just doing it for attention.
Yeah, they're very biphobic, and it's not great. And she is Muslim and Irish, so the overlap.
That's a big old no-no in those places.
Yeah, so it's a case that, like, being comfortable with her sexuality is something that has taken her a while, and when she's already come out to her mum, and she's already very open about the fact that she's bisexual at home, but she decides to bring it up with her friends, and then they're very dismissive about it. So she approaches Ishu, who is deciding whether she wants to try to be head girl, because her sister is perfect. They've always been very kind of competitive academically.
The parents compare them, so they get the impression that the parents compare them to each other, and it's like, why aren't you more like your sister?
Yes. And so Ishu's sister is at Cambridge, and she's like the golden girl, and Ishu, she actually disappoints them for once in her life, because she comes home and tells them that she's actually dropping out of university for a year because she's getting married. So Ishu thinks, okay, well, this is my chance. I can impress my parents because my sister didn't get to be head girl, and now I'm going to be head girl. But Hani is very popular and Ishu isn't. So Ishu says that yes, she will pretend to be Hani's girlfriend so that Hani's friends will stop discrediting her bisexuality, if Hani will use her popularity to make more people like Ishu, so she's more likely to win the head girl role.
Definitely not a popularity vote in school.
Yes.
The important academic vote.
But it's very fun, because it's one of those things where them fake dating does benefit both of them, because there are times when you read a fake dating book and it just doesn't really make sense on why one of them's into it. And I think that's probably one of the reasons it reminded me of the Love Hypothesis a lot, because in the Love Hypothesis, yes, an adult romance, not a YA romance, but both characters stand to gain something from fake dating, and so I think that it was giving me kind of vibes. I don't know if it's just because that's the only other fake dating book that we've read for quite a while, but I really didn't like the Love Hypothesis, so the fact that I really enjoyed Hani and Ishu, despite the fact that it did remind me of that, it shows that it's a good book.
Yeah, the Love Hypothesis was weird. It's like, clearly he wants to actually date you. You just want to be popular and, like, known. But
with Hani and Ishu, it's very much neither of them seem to want to date each other, and it's a very slow burn.
It's very much like, it starts off as a slow burn, and like they both have benefit. And I was like, oh, maybe this is going to be like a like fake dating is actually fake dating. They actually have they only want something out of it for each other. They don't actually end up dating. Yeah, they don't actually get a feeling or anything. Like, I just want that to exist. But that doesn't exist.
No, because people love the fake dating to real dating trope so much that they'd just all be so disappointed. You'd be like, this is the book I've been crying out for, and all the fake dating fans would be like, what? How could you?
Maybe I should write it.
Maybe you should.
I'll kill my main character halfway through.
Maybe. But I loved Hani and Ishu. I thought it was so well written. I loved the Grumpy Sunshine aspect. Especially because it makes the characters' voices very distinctive. Compared to some of there's a lot of dual perspective books this year, and compared to some of them, this was one of the easier ones to be able to tell the differences between the characters when they were narrating. It makes me want to read all of Adiba's other work, because The Henna Walls sounds amazing, and this was amazing, and the releases that she's got coming up sound amazing. So I definitely think that I've discovered a new favourite author by reading this one.
You can read them without me.
I will read them without Sean because it means I'll be able to enjoy them thoroughly without him grouching in the background. Was there anything else that you wanted to share, or just that you didn't like it?
How many issues don't go to fake dating?
You'd forgot where we were even
at. I remember that. I just couldn't remember the title of it. I think there's some interesting dynamics between... I can't remember which one it is. The sister.
Yes.
Because, like, she's not... The parents do not approve of her choice to opt out of university and get married.
And also, Ishu's parents don't know about her sexuality. So, that's very much the more traditional family. Just as a little side note there. Because that's, like, it's not just that they're disapproving of the choice to drop out of the uni. It is just that they've got more conservative views.
They are Muslim.
Yes.
So that's, like, very much standard Muslim.
So are Harney's parents. And they're more...
Yeah, like what one is very much like one is more like Muslim.
The traditional,
and one is very much like Western Muslim.
Mhm.
You've thrown me off.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
The sister dropping out of uni.
Yeah. I like that dynamic where she's they have a Google document, which is the guide
to fake dating.
Basically, yeah.
It's just a Google doc.
You know what it's gonna be. It's just gonna be like it's basically all their notes on each other on how to like.
It's cute.
It's like somewhat cute.
It's so they can make the relationship more realistic. So it's like, oh, what was our first date? If anybody asks, they've got their facts straight.
Yeah, bit weird. I don't know why you wouldn't just
well
start.
Thought out.
I didn't know why you didn't just like if you're fake dating, literally do all the fake dating stuff in the trope instead of making up the fake dates.
What they did, but it was so that like obviously they just had it written down so that no crossed wires could be crossed.
But like. I'm dating Alyce, and our wires get crossed like all the time. We have 2 separate anniversaries because we disagree.
Dating me, thanks, dude. We own a house. We got 2 kids, but we're just dating.
Well, you know. we could be bang buddies.
Stop. No.
We have children. We don't have time for that.
No, we don't.
I was way more interested in that dynamic with her sister because the sister accidentally logs on to the document and it's like they start going into panic crisis mode.
Yeah, because they think that she's going to tell
she's going to
sabotage
parents. Them.
Or sabotage them.
Yeah. Somehow. And...
I threw you off again, didn't I?
Yeah, you do. But she comes up. I can't remember which one. The sister, the one that is not the sister, the girl that had Harney has a crisis, and she decides to actually phone. She phones her sister.
Ishu. The one that has the sister.
Yeah.
How is Harney? You said the one who doesn't have the sister.
No, I said the one that has the sister. The one with the sister.
Okay, the one with
Ishu. She phones her sister, and her sister books a flight and like flies there straight away to like try and help and like deal with this issue. Because at school, because the Harney's friends are still biphobic, and they still think Harney still thinks they're her friends, and they're clearly not. They're massive assholes. Again, toxic female relationships. It's a running theme through this prize, I think, this year. They are trying to sabotage Ishu's chance at being head girl by spreading rumors, and she's gonna get expelled, but the sister flies over and like basically like
saves the day.
Yeah, she like takes no prisoners and it's like, excuse me, you have no power over me. I've left your building. Yeah,
I'm at uni now, and you're gonna listen.
Yeah, which is like really cool.
Yeah, it's so badass.
Like their sibling bonds are always cool to see.
Again, a book that's got very, very good family relationships in it. Because Harney's father is campaigning to be a local politician. So there's a lot. Not only are there discussions between her and her mother about her sexuality and about the way that she's feeling about the biphobia that her friends are expressing towards her, but there's also good conversations between her and her dad, because
he's friends. Going to he's polling at the mosque.
Yeah, he's
canvassing.
He's canvassing at the mosque, pretending to be more interested in religion than he is to try and get more votes. And so she feels very uncomfortable. Yeah, but she feels very uncomfortable about it. She thinks it's a bit unethical, and so she doesn't help him as well as she could when he wants her to canvass the local area. She fobs it off and goes off with her friends instead because they're very toxic.
And it's like 2 or 3 times that she like.
No, only once.
Is it only once?
Only once. But it's just a case that when she tells him, he is very angry with her and says like, "You've really let me down," and she says, "Well, I don't think that what you're doing is okay." And they have a very frank and honest discussion about the fact that she's not comfortable with the way that he is acting and he's not comfortable with the way that she is acting. And I think it's good to see those kind of conversations in YA, because sometimes, I don't know if you ever felt like it, but when you're younger, it can sometimes feel that you can't broach certain subjects with your parents. And if a parent is doing something that you morally disagree with, or they're doing something that you genuinely think they shouldn't be doing, it's important to be able to have a conversation with them about it. And I think just because we're parents, it doesn't mean that we're right all the time. It doesn't mean that we're not going to make mistakes. And I think having a kid who feels comfortable enough and secure enough in your relationship to be able to have those discussions with you is very, very important. And it's something that I hope we have when they're older.
We have to also educate them in an appropriate time and place to tell them. Like, instead of going and canvassing, she could have told her dad straight away that she wasn't actually that good, didn't feel as though she should, and then she couldn't have disappointed him later on.
Yeah, like if she'd had that conversation with him earlier and said like, you keep canvassing at the mosque, I don't know whether that's the right choice. Like, why are you doing that? If they'd actually had that discussion earlier rather than waiting until it was heated. But I think it's very important to see those kind of conversations happening in YA, and I really liked that inclusion.
Obviously, we're not from Ireland, so like things are different. Very much Catholic, very much Muslim, from what I understand. But because Ishu. I am sorry, my tongue is native England and doesn't make these sounds very well. Ishu.
Yes.
So she gets suspended, and the sister proves her innocence. And it's proved that is that Hanu? Oh, I forgot the name. I can't remember whose friend is it?
Hani's friend.
Is it Hani's friend? Yeah. Hani's friend. It's hard. It's doing it the whole time, and she doesn't get suspended because she has a massive cry and a breakdown, and
her parents are donors.
One of the Golden Girls.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think she's
nepotism.
Yeah, she not.
Well,
that wouldn't be nepotism.
No, it's privilege.
I think her parents would go to school, so that would be nepotism. Yeah, carrying that family line down for education. And it's like that's quite an interesting contrast. Like I don't know if it's meant to be like sort of like discrimination based on religious lines. Like it very much feels like it's discriminating on religious lines.
It does. So you didn't like it, but
I thought there were really good elements. I kind of just wanted to have Ishu, and her family. I was way more interested in that.
Yeah.
And most of the stuff was Hani. So the next book is The Upper World
by Femi Fadugba.
Yes, because I've not pronounced that right.
You would not have. I don't know if I am. I do apologise if any of the pronunciations are incorrect.
I also apologise.
Yeah.
I may or may not cut the bit out. It depends on how I feel on editing. But like, I'm really, really bad at names and words.
I just think that
genuinely,
if you can commit to a way of saying it,
but it's the thing, my brain doesn't work that way.
That's okay.
I'll tell you a bit after this because I want to add it on.
Okay.
But yeah,
I love you.
I love you too.
Right, The Upper World. So we have a book which is dual perspective and sciencey.
The sciencey bit it's good. Like the science is obviously if you have science.
If you have a science brain, it's well crafted science. Yeah.
But also, if you don't have that much of a science brain, it does have the appendix.
Appendices was the perfect word for it, and you ruined it.
My life. At the back, it has visual things and descriptions, which is really good because I don't know any novel that's not fantasy and it's discussing fantasy concepts that has that.
Yeah, it's very well crafted. So you'll get like these sketches, and it'll say like found on a napkin that's been thrown in the bin at the football stadium or something like that, because of where the characters are talking about it. So it puts the notes into the context of the story, which is very clever.
I think that's one of the reasons why I liked it, because like it felt almost series of fortunate events with the bits at the end, like the explaining it. It felt like when.
Like somebody's watching.
When Lemony Snicket is going back and like recounting the tales.
Okay.
Because the way the story is told, it's two perspectives from...
Two different timelines.
Two different timelines that meet. It's Esso as a teenager in school. And we think her name is pronounced Rhea.
Rhea.
We're not quite sure. In the future. And Esso goes to the event that happens and the main book's about. But he is in the future, he is Rhea's... physics teacher? Maths teacher? Tutor, yeah. Which is like kind of see how they like would link.
Yeah, so it's like you follow Esso's story in the past, but you also see him in the future. Which is an interesting way of doing a dual timeline. It's not one that I think I've seen before.
It has benefits and it also has cons.
Yes, con mainly being the pacing.
Yeah, because you know what happens. It's the issue with prequels. Because you know what happened. You know the catalysts. You know that bit is happening,
and it takes
you have the aftermath.
So fucking long to get there, like so fucking long that I could have cried. It's very rushed at the end, and the whole first half is just so drudgy and dreary, and I struggled through every page. Sean was enjoying it more because he likes the physics stuff, but then even when we got past like the bulk of the physics stuff and most of that had happened, the main event still hadn't occurred.
I think part of it is because it's set in London, so you'd think it'd be a bit more relatable to people who live in England. But like, you could have told me it was set in America.
Yeah,
or
there's
Canada,
not a very
or Brazil.
Strong sense
there's
of
no
setting.
no sense of setting at all. And Esso has friends in the past who, when they're at the event, it's a spoilers, so that
we are doing spoilers. Why the hell are we? Why are we hedging around this?
There's a shooting that happens, and that's what
people die.
People die, but you don't really get a good sense of like grasp of the people, because one of Rhea's mum is friends with Esso.
Yeah.
And is possibly her dad. We don't actually know.
No, it is. It's confirmed.
It is. Oh, is it confirmed?
Confirmed.
Okay. Yeah.
Her dad is one of the other people involved in this event.
Shooting. Yeah, in the shooting. And it just, like, other than Rhea's perspective on the mum, I didn't really care for her at all. Or any of the friends. They're not very well characterised, or...
It's not that they're well characterised. It's not that they're not well characterised. It's that they're very much hedging on stereotypes. So you've got the Polish kid who always says the wrong thing. You've got the hot black girl who is Rhea's mum. You've got the gangsters who, Roadmen. So, like, you've got the two who are siblings. One of them's really short and angry, and one of them's really tall and allegedly killed his mum's boyfriend when he was younger. So it all feels very stereotypical. There's nothing that really delves into those characters more. There's the comic relief best friend who is...
That's the thing, that they're just so boring and forgettable.
Yeah, and, like, I can't remember any of their names. Nadia might be the mum's name. But I can remember... aspects of all of the characters because I've seen them before. I'll see them again. They're very generic.
Tropes.
They're just tropes. Yeah, it's just personified tropes, and it's
disappointing reading. There are other books in this that don't have the tropes, even though they could easily be the stereotypical tropey characters, and it's just disappointing when books that have potential
they rely on it too much.
It's just like, is that really how you see people like that, as like those tropes?
I also think we need to talk about the fact that it really doesn't need a sequel.
I
haven't read the sequel yet because it's not out yet, but one of the things about the YA Book Prize is that a book that is part of a series cannot be shortlisted unless it stands independently on its own by itself.
Which is why last year's Endgame by Mary Blackman should not have been counted.
Not Endgame.
The one before
Endgame's the last one. Crossfire?
Yeah, Crossfire. It should not have been counted.
Because you could not read that independently of the rest of the Noughts and Crosses series. You needed the context, and it's also got an extremely intense cliffhanger, so you need to be able to finish the story off. with The Upper World, it's open for a sequel, but it doesn't need to be.
I
It
think the
wraps up
reason
so
why-
nicely. The story basically ends, and then it's like a little bit tacked on the end, like, oh, I can get a sequel out of this.
I think it got picked up for a sequel before it got picked up for television show rights.
I think it's Amazon?
Prime,
maybe?
I'm not sure. It got picked up for a show before it even published.
Yeah.
So we have no idea where along the storyline that happened. Whether the sequel would have just been the last 100 pages of a chunkier boy.
I think one chunkier boy could have been more effective, because it just feels like a very cheap cop-out to get a sequel out of it, because it feels like, okay, this is really well wrapped up, satisfied with all the ways that it's ended, doesn't really feel like there's a lot to be explored. It's not very... I'm satisfied that all of the loose ends got tied up, but it's not a satisfactory ending, and then it's like, oh yeah, and it's not the end, because there has to be more shoved on there, and I just didn't enjoy that.
I don't think I would pick the sequel up.
I think I will, because I'm a completionist, but I just don't think I'd enjoy it at all.
I enjoyed it, yeah. I might watch the adaptation. Maybe.
Yeah, that would be cool. I think it would. It's very cinematic. The way that it's described, the way it describes Esso going into the upper world, and the kind of relation between the upper world and our world.
The upper world stuff is really good.
It's so cinematic. You can't help but picture it perfectly in your head, and it kind of gives me Stranger Things vibes. Kind of gives me
that Harry Potter bit at the end was the white in the last movie.
Train
station. They go to like train station, and it's like,
I've never seen or watched or read that soz.
You guys will know. There's a train station when he speaks to Dumbledore, and like the weird blobby thing under the bench. And it's like, it's kind of like that. So
is that Dobby?
No, it's something else, I think. Have you seen maybe Voldemort? Possibly. It's a bit weird, but like, it's like that, like separate place. Like that's very cinematic. The way that's described. That's really, really like most of the description of the book, and most of the reasons why I like the book is because of the whole stuff that happens in the upper world and the way it's described,
and the fact that it's very cinematic.
Yeah.
And I think if we'd spent more time in the upper world, but for a book called The Upper World, there's not really much upper world. It's more talking about the theory behind the upper world than actually the upper world.
Yeah, obviously, like, you have to explain to people like it's their first time reading it, because it could be their first time coming to grasp the concept.
Mm-hmm.
But also, it's just like find a more interesting way to do some of it that makes it a bit more organic. I think this is possibly the most organic way I've seen it done.
But it's still not that organic.
Yeah. Also, the fact that Rhea is set in the future, and the only thing that really tells us it's the future is the fact that it tells us the future, and Esso is now mid-30s or something.
Well, there's also like, it's stereotypical, it's the future, we've got some wacky technology. So like there aren't police officers now, there are just police drones, like police bots. And they've all got like, you've got special glasses or something that you can use to, when she's doing football, she can look at the goal and like work out the physics of how to get the best shot. And it's a fun little idea, but other than that, it doesn't really feel like the future at all. So it's just like, I'll reference this new funky bit of technology that I've made up, and then nothing else will make you feel like we're in a different time period.
Which I think lets it down quite a bit as well.
Yeah, it's very cheesy. Don't get me wrong, I didn't hate it. I think I'm still going to give it about 3 stars, but
very middle of the road.
Yeah,
a lot of this book price has just been middle of the road.
Yeah, I would have DNF'd it if I hadn't been reading it with you, because the sciencey stuff was just too much for me. It was just too much for my brain, and it was a real struggle to get through it. And I did like, the payoff was worth it. It was more enjoyable than I thought it would be at the end, but I didn't love it, not at all.
I get that.
Should we move on
to the next one?
Yeah.
Jinx. Book 4. You're the one that I wrote. What you want? You are the one that I want. By Simon James Green. If
it was said like that, it would make Grease a very different film. You're the one that I
didn't even get that far through the words.
Can you imagine? I'm just picturing John Travolta in my head. Oh, this is a good time. So
it's a Grease retelling, if you couldn't tell.
It's already a gay Grease retelling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't really know Grease that well. It just kind of seems like it's not really a retelling, just like Grease they're doing the play Grease.
Yeah, it's not a retelling at all. It's just that
Grease,
they're doing that as their musical. Yeah. So there's a boy called Freddie. His mum's a famous producer lady.
Yeah, who has like no time for him anymore because she's making that money and living that life that she's always wanted.
Yeah, and he goes to one of her fancy schmancy launch parties and he takes his Tesco's donuts along because he doesn't realise that there's going to be catering, and then he accidentally gets dragged into being a member of the catering team because he's wearing a suit because she said smart casual, and he's like, I'll wear my prom suit, and then everybody else is in just like jeans and shirts, and he's like, I have vastly overestimated the word smart in the smart casual.
It's a buttoned up flannel instead of an open flannel.
Yeah, but I really like Freddie. He's very fun.
He's a bit too naive. Yeah. Which is kind of like cute. He's like a teenager, not a child.
I thought it was actually funny. Like,
some parts of it, I think, yeah. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I can hold it. I thought it was actually funny because one of the things with funny books that have been shortlisted for the Waverley Prize in the past have been that they've been so cringe that they haven't been funny in the slightest, and they've made me like want to die.
Like, we all have a good cringe when it's time for a good cringe, but when it's time for a funny and it's a cringe, like, no.
And I think sometimes you can think that cringe is funny and you can lean into it too much, but with this one there's like some cringe, some funny, and there's some that's like a mix of cringe and funny, which is really good. Like, there's this section when Freddie and his boyfriend are making out and they go into his bedroom and they close the door, and his mum has given him a cardboard cutout of Jasper, who is one of the actors in her TV show, and he's meant to be storing it because they haven't got room to store it on set. And they kind of like, they slam the bedroom door and they're making out, and his boyfriend's just like, why have we got a cardboard cutout of my ex? And it's like, it's cringe, but it is really funny because you don't expect it at all. And I'm just like, oh my god, that's genius. Like, I loved that. That whole scene just got me.
That was a good scene.
That was a good scene. I think that there are aspects of it that are too predictable.
There are. Mm-hmm. Which... Again, like, if it's your first time reading a YA novel, you might not know.
Yes, if you are somebody who hasn't read a lot of YA contemporary, then this is really going to appeal to you, and I never hold it against the ratings if it's one that I find predictable, because obviously tropes are tropes for a reason, and they've become tropes as they've been used over time. So when you're reading books that are specifically marketed towards younger people, they may be encountering these tropes for the first time. But I think the problem is that some of the foreshadowing is just a little bit too ham-fisted. So it's not a case that it's just predictable because I've read the tropes before. It's predictable because it's a bit too obvious that the paving stones are being laid down a certain direction. Which is one of the weirdest ways I've ever described that, but that's fine. Do you have anything else you'd like to share about it?
The boyfriend.
I can't remember his name. Is it Zach? It is
Zach. Yeah, Zach. He comes into the school, college. I think they're at college age.
Yeah, it's sixth form.
Yeah. As like a big shot, and he's like, there's a previous big shot lady, who is like, I'm the big shot, I'm the bee's knees, and he comes in and he's like, yeah, I'm like fancy London College of Acting.
Yeah, he did like the National Theatre summer school, and she's just like enraged. She's like, but there's only 10 people chosen every year, and he's like, and
you're like, yeah,
you weren't 10. One of those 10 though, were you? Yeah. like the chill.
Yeah, like there's some parts where he's like painfully trying to be cool, and it's like, oh no, this is not good. Can we just skip to the good bits? And then there are bits where he's like sassing her. I can't remember what it was. They're describing a scene, and they're basically like trying to knowledge each other as a teacher.
Yes.
I think it's when they kiss. When Zach and when.
No, I think it's. I can't remember, but yes. She says something wrong, and he's like, oh, you used to be an English teacher, didn't you? Or you also teach English. I think it's the English teacher that also does drama.
Yeah.
And he's like, would you say that was the right way to phrase that? And the teacher's like, well, no, I wouldn't. And then, so the bully girl comes back with another thing, and they're just like out sassing each other, and the rest of the class are like, oh. And I liked that because that was like very reminiscent of like shit I've actually seen go down in schools. Yeah. When like...
The teacher's unaware that the two students are like passive aggressively
But I think the other thing about that is that it makes it really realistic, because Freddie isn't one of the people that's involved. He's watching this play out, and you do. Like, a lot of the time when you're in school, you're not the main character, you're just watching the action around you.
Are you telling me Community isn't a real life representation of universities and colleges?
You know what I mean, though? Like, you're not going to be the quiet geek and the class clown and the edgy kid sat in the background and the popular girl. Like, there's always going to be a time when one of those characters is the main character in the scene of life and you're in the background. And I think actually getting to see that play out through Freddie's perspective is very interesting, because it's not something you get very often in YA. Normally
the main characters are the ones sassing each other.
Yeah, and it's a case that main character will fill like all of the tropes because they're the main character, rather than actually letting it be that they can take a step back. And that's actually something I would like to talk about in one of the other books that we're going to be talking about in a minute, about not always being the main character, because it's something I've been thinking about.
I don't know what that is, but let's carry on to that, yeah?
We'll find out in a second.
Yeah. And also, Zach really doesn't like cardboard cutout boy.
Jasper. I don't know why I can remember Jasper's name more than anything.
He doesn't like Jasper because he is like Zach is very much a narcissist, and he wants to be the center of attention. He wants to be famous, like, painfully.
Yeah.
And he doesn't realise that he's like kind of being a bit of a dick to everybody.
Yes.
And he
uses people. He stands on people to get what he wants, like, all the time.
But I don't think he realizes he's doing it, because our main character, his mum invites them to be extras on the set, and instead of being like the asshole that like other people, he is like so humble and like just like starry-eyed child. He's like trying to be really impressed, like everything's new and exciting to him. That's kind of cute.
Yeah.
And it's when he meets all three of them meet.
Yeah. Jasper and Zach and Freddie.
Yeah, and that's when Freddie starts to see the cracks in Zach.
Yeah.
And starts to like actually get some feelings for Jasper because he's realised what Zach has told him about Jasper. Isn't
quite true.
Isn't the whole truth. It's only his truth.
Yeah, because like if you're asking someone their version of a story, they're going to give you the version that makes them shine in the best light. And I think that's very well explored in this, because you do have that, like, okay, Jasper's like, Freddie, why are you dating Zach? He's an asshole. And Zach's like, why are you talking to Jasper? He's an asshole. And so they both kind of hate each other, but they both think that they came out completely scot-free from the relationship. And it's interesting to see that play out, because Freddie doesn't know what to believe. He's had a negative interaction with Jasper. As far as he's aware, Zach is pretty much perfect because he's hot and he's giving him attention. And so it's looking at the fact that people can put on a persona and make you see them how they want you to see them, and it does take getting to know somebody before you really see who they are underneath.
Also, but I don't know why our main character takes so long to clock on. Zach is like, oh no, you can't actually be seen as me. Like, basically he's the side. Zach is the side. No, Freddie is Zach's side chick, and Zach is sleeping with and trying to date the mean girls. People. The mean girls. Yeah, he's trying to date. He's trying to kind of like sleep around, but he's really, really trying to get in with the mean girl's boyfriend.
Yeah. And
he eventually succeeds, and that's what sort of like shatters Freddie's world. And he's like, "Oh, actually, I actually have feelings for Jasper."
Yeah. So bad at names. Should we move on to the next book?
Yes.
And have more names that we can forget?
I can forget.
I can't remember most of the names for the next ones. This is going to be fun.
What the next book is.
That was way too quiet.
That was clap. Next book is Rocket Ship.
Rocket Ship. I don't know the rest of the words.
This is when we get copyright striking and the channel goes
forever.
Yeah. No one ever sees us again.
I sang Elton John so close to how it actually sounds.
You did. It was like he was sat in your chair.
Wow. I need to dye my hair ginger and put on some weight. Put on a white suit. Make friends with Fallout Boy.
Yeah. So, the yearbook by Holly Bourne. Would you like to describe the book?
Perfect. Is that a word I can use to describe it?
The events of the book.
Ah, that wasn't what you said. Pink blue is another good way of describing it. That was what Sophia said when she picked it for us. So, there is a girl called Paige. And Paige is on the newspaper, the school newspaper. And
she is a painfully extroverted person. Introverted.
Painfully extroverted, Sean says.
Introverted.
I one of the most shy characters we've ever experienced.
Sorry.
She has literally no friends. Her only friend moved away from school when they were younger, and she has never found another friend. She gets on with the librarian. She sits in the library and she reads books, and she doesn't talk to anybody, and she thinks that not trying to make friends is the easiest way to avoid getting hurt again in the future. So she doesn't speak up. She looks at all these injustices, and she goes home and she writes down all of the events of bullying that have occurred each day into these little journals, so that she can keep a record of everything that the popular bitches have done.
I mean, like, this is like...
So that at least somebody is kind of semi-holding them accountable.
I could possibly see this book in, like, 10 years having a sequel where she's a serial killer.
Oh my god, I love
a little bit crazy.
The yearbook meets A Good Girl's Guide to Murder.
Like her Paige's like sole motivation for the book is just to like not until like the event happens.
The event?
Yeah, like
there's an event.
Yeah, like okay, so until she meets Red Pen,
okay,
she doesn't want
she
wants to not be remembered. She wants to fade in the background as much as possible and not have any impact at all.
Yeah, because she's too scared that anything that she does will like bite her on the ass.
And it kind of sounds like she has like these notepads with all these events that happen. She's like taking note and like making her list and checking it twice, and she's gonna find out who's naughty or nice.
And then murder.
Yeah, but she is going through books that will be in. I think they're going to be in the syllabus. She's
reading a set text.
Yes, that's the word. And she realises that her copy that she's got at the library has annotations in red pen by somebody. And she also writes in annotations is that I exist, which now I'm thinking about it is a bit silly because she doesn't want to be noticed and she wants to be forgotten. But then she wants to be, she wants to exist.
That's the
same
whole
time.
point of that, though.
So she doesn't realise she hasn't realised herself that she actually wants to that she wants to have an impact. She's too determined not to make an impact for some strange reason.
There's a lot of reasons. There are so many reasons why she doesn't want to make an impact, but she relates so deeply to Red Pen's notes that she decides to track down who they are. So she reads the syllabus
for the next year
set
or
texts,
two.
Yeah, and then she leaves notes.
And she runs around trying to get all the flick through the book.
Flick through all the different copies to see which one.
See if he's marked it up.
And so she leaves a note in one of the books that she believes that they will be reading soon, based off of the set text, and asks him to meet her in the pages of the books, and he does. And then they meet outside of the pages too, and it's hecking cute.
And
man.
he is, I can't remember his name.
It's so hecking cute. I want to say it's Elijah, but we've read
he is painfully quirky to begin with.
It is Elijah. Oh. I can remember some names.
Yeah.
I didn't think I had that.
Yeah.
He is painfully quirky. He's like so off the wall, but I love him. He's so great.
You could also think he would be a serial killer because he is the when you get what parasized. Like he's
a social pariah.
Social pariah because of how much of a kook he is.
Kook.
Yeah.
It's a good word. But yes, I love Elijah. I think he's great. He doesn't care about anybody, really. He lives his own life, and his mother is a psychologist and has kind of taught him that like it's important to be comfortable within yourself, and it's especially important to ignore your child because you're too busy working.
He takes her advice a bit too seriously, and then he starts reading all her
books,
her education, her like reference books, and he takes them a bit too seriously. And he's like, "Well, Mum, you say to be authentic and be like kind of yourself." and yet you are constantly trying to do things to impress your friends and your co-workers and to prove that you are the bestest of the best.
But this is again a good book about the fact that parents aren't perfect. It can. This is a book that treats the parents as though they are people. They are multi-dimensional. They are fleshed out characters. Paige's dad in particular, because he is actually quite abusive. And there's a lot of exploration as to why he is abusive. How? Because he's not physically abusive, it's more mentally and psychologically. But there's a lot of discussion of Paige trying to work out why he's like this.
And why her mum sticks with him.
Yeah, why her mum puts up with it, because he loves his son, Paige's brother. He absolutely loves him. He's the golden child. He can't do anything wrong. But because he has his son, Paige is just kind of dead weight, really. He wishes that they hadn't had her, and I
don't think he quite wishes that.
Well, yeah, I think that's literally explicitly stated.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if it's said in that exact way, but he
wants Paige and the wife to be so subservient to him.
Yeah, he just dismisses constantly. Oh, what was it he called? Wasn't a maggot, but it was something similar. Slug.
Yeah.
Slug. How disgusting is that? How can you even think about calling your daughter a fucking slug? That's so gross. And it makes you so angry on Paige's behalf. And I was rooting for her so much throughout this whole book. I just wanted her to stand up and be right, tell them bitches to fuck off. Tell your dad to fuck off. Get it, girl. Come on. And she does. It takes a while. But it means that the character growth is very realistic, and it's very gradual, and it's brilliantly crafted.
Paige has a lot of help from her aunt.
Yes. Oh, the relationship between her and her aunt is just perfect.
She's not quite as kooky pariah as Elijah.
But she's getting there.
She's a bit of a kook. She's
a crazy cat lady.
Yeah, she's.
And she owns it.
Yeah. And she's a bit naive. She's not. She knows that there's not a healthy relationship between the mum and the dad. Yeah. But she knows what the mum was like before, so she knows that maybe she's also a bit guilty, but not as guilty as the dad is of the situation that's happened.
But it's so interestingly written, and considering it's a book called The Yearbook is a very subtle kind of thread throughout until the end. That's where it kind of all comes to a head.
I think you said that it's 3 stories. Well woven.
It's so well woven, and this was the first book on this shortlist that we read that I thought this feels like a YA Book Prize book. Because you've got the relationship between Paige and her family. You've got the relationship between Paige and who Red Pen might be. You've also got this, the bullying at the school and the way that Paige is watching it all plan out. You've got in the school,
it's these 3 popular girls.
It's these 3
It's very much
girls.
Is it Barn Book?
Yeah.
Whatever the thing is, the mean girls. Yeah. Described as.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you've also got the story about Paige and her old friend, because I think her name is Ruby. She's referenced quite frequently throughout, but you don't know why or what's happened between them, so that takes a while to plan out as well. And I just think this is one of the only books that doesn't have pacing issues, because there's always something else to focus on. So if you're getting a lull from the Red Pen chapters, then you've got a lot more going on with Paige and her dad. When you've got more focus on the yearbook, then Elijah will kind of fade into the background a little bit, but he's still there. And I think it's just so well written. And Holly Bourne is amazing. I've said this before, I will say it again. Holly Bourne is the queen of UKYA. I think it is a fucking crime that she hasn't won the YA Book Prize yet. And I think that this is in with a genuinely strong chance of being the winner, because it's like the epitome of a YA book. It tackles everything that you need it to tackle, and it tackles it really, really well.
I think some points are a bit biased and a bit simple, but then it's a YA book, it's not an adult book, so they have to be like when you're learning shapes in school, and this, I'm holding up this triangle, it's 2D, but I'm holding it up so it's actually 3D, but you have to explain things in baby steps.
Yeah.
So I think this is really good. I think if she did I don't know what her adult books are like.
I haven't read any of her adult books yet, and I don't know what's wrong with us.
I can imagine they're the next steps up into coming to grips with how the world works and how relationships work.
Yeah.
And the fact that very much a theme between Holly Bourne's books is the abusive relationship.
Yes.
And very much that the traits of the villain are also shared by the hero, and it's why so many girls will pick the bad boy and stay with the bad boy, because they like the one that can beat you up can also beat up the guy who's trying to attack you themselves.
Yeah. Did you like it?
I did like it.
Good. So you like it?
I did like it. Within the school itself and the yearbook, I think it's quite interesting because Paige, she doesn't really stick her neck out at all until like right at the end when she's like, "Oh, are you okay with discussing the fact that you went off for, I think it's a term or a month because you had eating disorder?"
Don't know if it was an eating disorder or if it was self-harm. For some reason this girl was off because she'd been sectioned. And
she just literally became one of the popular kids because one of the popular, that was one of the three of them had become a pariah because she did something wrong.
Kissed the boyfriend of another one.
Yes, yeah. So they've just like rose her up and she's like, "Oh, if you want to like stay popular with us, you have to, I say," and it's like sort of like
manipulative.
Manipulative, like beating her into line. And that's when Paige actually starts to like stick her neck out.
Yeah.
And, like put her foot down. Like that's when you sort of like, oh, like the cook's in like, oh yeah, she's like the character of Paige is like turning and growing.
Yeah.
And you sort of like start rooting for it.
And it's very subtle, which is lovely.
But right at the end, because Paige is the trusted
good girl.
Good girl. She's the one that gets the final overview of the yearbook, and she is the one that decides to like tell what actually happens. And throughout the book, you get like editor's notes.
Yeah, so it tells you the each of the parts is separated out. Let me see if I can find one. Year 7, for example. So you've got like the poster that they would have done to get the memories submitted about year 7, and then on the next page it's got the editor's note what really happened about year 7. So Paige has kind of taken the yearbook that they've created and destroyed their narrative by adding some truth to it.
Yeah, and also there's a bit at the end which I thought was quite good. It was the most likely to. And the 3 girls are basically like most likely to become like fat, most likely to become a murderer, most likely to become homeless.
Yeah, so they've done like really mean ones.
Yeah, and Paige like obviously corrects them all, and then she adds in most likely to sabotage a yearbook to make it your own personal vanity project.
Yeah, so I was like, that's actually
that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, like most likely to create fake most likely tos to like hurt people or something like that. But yeah, it's a really good way of doing it. I just kind of want more. Like, if this was 300 pages longer, I would still love it. If this was the first book in a 7-book series, I would still love it because I just really, really care about Paige's character.
I think it'd be interesting to see Holly Bourne write a series.
I mean, she's got the Spinster Club, but they're like companion novels. But it would be nice. You haven't even read the Spinster Club yet,
That's the movie Hollywood movies.
No.
The popcorn one.
No.
Oh, okay.
No, that's Am I Normal Yet? What's a Girl Got to Do?
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, so she's written companion novels in the past, but I don't think she's actually written like sequels yet. So it would be nice. And like, please, like, we could follow Paige and Elijah off to uni. That would be lovely. Yeah. Be so good.
Then never to break up.
No. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? Stop. Let's move on to the next book.
And this is...
Leave Paige and Elijah alone.
Okay. This is your very late birthday present. Or New Year's... Definitely birthday present. Like 2 months late.
Yeah, I got it. No, it was like October. I thought it was an early Christmas present. It was not.
I'm very good at getting gifts for Alyce.
And then forgetting he's got them.
So like throughout the year she gets surprise gifts like, oh, have a Funko Pop, have a book.
Yeah, like this is really out of context why.
Have a ring. Have a phone.
I love you.
I love you too.
You're insane.
I'm completely normal.
House of Hollow by Kristoff Sutherland.
This is everyone says it's a body horror book, which
there is some body horror.
Yeah, that's in there, but like that's not really how I describe it. Like just because it has two scenes.
Yeah.
It's more like a fantasy high school, middle school, comprehensive school drama, because it's 3 sisters, and the sister we follow is the youngest of the 3, because her oldest sister is a super successful super duper uber model. The middle sister is a rebellious girl band punk tattooed rebellion, and the youngest sister who we follow is just kind of like, she wants to keep her head down, and she just wants to like, well, my sisters have abandoned my mum, and my father killed himself, so like I need to like be here for my mum to like keep her and like prove that not everything in her life is bad and will eventually leave her. Gray goes missing. Yes. And both main
Vivi and Iris.
Vivi and Iris see a man in a deer head skull.
Yeah. A bull? Is it a bull skull? He's a minotaur, so yeah, it would be a bull.
Yeah. They keep seeing a minotaur, like show up at different places, and as the mystery unravels, because they start to talk to each other, the sisters, about seeing him, and they go searching for Gray, and then more and more things start to happen, because when the 3 sisters were children, they were kidnapped at midnight.
Well, they disappeared.
Oh, sorry, yeah, they disappeared.
We don't know if they were kidnapped or not. They just disappeared.
And they returned. They reappeared 1 month later
in the same place. Completely naked.
I feel that a bit.
Yeah, they got like thrown back into the world.
From wherever they were.
Again, this is spoilery, we can say.
From the not Fey wild, but also Fey wild.
Yeah.
Some sort of other plane of existence.
Yeah, I don't know if it's ever actually named, is it?
No, I don't think so.
It's just through the kind of door.
Yeah, a door that was not a door anymore.
Yeah, a door that used to lead somewhere and now leads somewhere else, I believe is the way that it's described, yeah. Did you like it?
I did like it.
I think you liked it more than I did, if I'm honest.
I like the mystery.
Surprising.
I like fantasy. I like all levels. I like from like low on the ground to like super high fantasy, and like I like all the stages in between. Yeah. Fantasy, so, it's already like I'm gonna like it by it being a fantasy. Again, I don't know if it's gonna have a sequel, but it has an ending that's like, well, that could be.
Yeah, it's open-ended.
Yeah, open-ended. It's like a secret. Because there's the Gray's ex-boyfriend, current boyfriend. Boy.
Yeah,
the boy in her life.
A fellow supermodel, Gray's co-worker.
That she's
dated.
Dated. Him and the 2 sisters go into the Fey world to try and get Gray back, and to try and stop the Minotaur from haunting, following, stalking, creeping them,
potentially killing them all.
And Vivi gets kidnapped.
Yeah, so then it's just Iris and the boy.
And what's
his name?
I don't know.
Is that also Zach?
Maybe.
Tyler. I do not remember it being Tyler. That's fine. Tyler Yang. Yes, it is Tyler.
He's Korean. That's all I remember.
He is.
Yeah, they go into the wild, and Vivi is our main character.
Iris, our
main character. She leaves him to go to the bathroom or something. I can't remember.
Yeah, they're sleeping in the hollow of a tree, and she needs a pee. So she goes like around the corner.
Oh, also their surname is Hollow.
Hollow. That's what the house is about.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she goes around the corner to have a pee, comes back and he's gone, and she's like, "Oh shit, where's he gone?
He must have woken up.
Damn."
And it's like, oh no, he's actually been murdered and
skinned.
Well, not like skinned, but like his skin.
Like skinned.
Like
quite literally skinned.
He's had his skin stolen, so that the guy in the Minotaur, which is actually their dad, can wear him and then go to the real world.
No. So that he can wear his skin and then kill them.
Oh,
because they'll trust him because they won't know that he's
the
dad.
Yeah.
I didn't remember now.
So
that was
anyway,
why I thought he'd done it.
The three sisters, they were taken into the Feywild. They have actually been killed because they find their graves. The dad
This is when they were younger.
Yeah. So
when they were younger, they didn't return.
Yeah.
Changelings.
Three changelings appeared in their place that were wearing their skin suits.
So the dad learnt this and was like, right, okay, there's a supermodel there. I'm gonna steal his skin suit.
Yeah. And
because like if at first there's a skin suit, more skin suits must become.
Yeah. All three of the girls have supernatural powers.
Yes.
And Gray, the oldest, makes the dad kill himself because he finds out, and he goes to the plane and he buries the three girls, and that's why he is the one in the Minotaur, like haunting them. It's
kind of like the purgatory.
Yes.
So they can go through the door and then come back, but most people, it's where they go when they die. But the way that it's described is if you die, but you can't let go, or if somebody won't let go of you.
Because
so, for example, Tyler's sister is there.
Because she died when they were very small children?
Yeah, she drowned. He's always blamed himself and he's always mourned her very intensely. And it's implied that because of his blame, she can't pass on. So that's the reason that the dad is in this world, because he had a reason to stay, because he wanted to find out the truth about his children, and he knew that the girls who came back weren't his kids, so he wanted to find them, and that's why he hasn't been able to pass on. But it's later on, towards the end of the story, he kind of finds his peace and then he can pass on. So it's a very interesting look at kind of what follows death and what could precede a potential afterlife.
And why families of success can also be all successful. Because they're all supernatural beings.
So, you enjoyed it more than I did. And I'm surprised by that, because I thought this was going to be a new favourite for me. Like, the first 60 pages I absolutely loved. And then Gray goes missing. Iris and Vivi find her. And then Gray's back for a bit, but then she goes missing again. And as soon as Gray's actually in the story, I just didn't... Like, there was just something about it. I just disconnected completely.
She's a very uncompelling character. And I think Crystal... Sutherland likes Gray a lot.
Yeah.
But neither of us particularly liked her, and like the tone changes.
It does. The tone is very different. I think, especially because at the beginning, Gray is off being a supermodel and Viv is off touring the world, so Iris is by herself, and it's a very kind of intimate story. You've got this girl who is... She knows that there's weird stuff about her family, but she doesn't really have all that much of it surrounding herself. And there's a lot of reflections about like things that have happened when they were younger, the fact that they disappeared and came back. And you learn all of that through Iris in this kind of internal monologue almost, because where she doesn't have a lot of friends, she's quite bullied at school. So there's kind of interactions between her and her mother, but otherwise it's just very introspective.
Yeah, she's at a private school.
Yeah.
And they don't call it a grammar school, they call it something else that just kept throwing me, and like, this is really strange that it's not called a grammar school.
I'm pretty sure they just called it high school.
Yeah.
And it's like, it feels very American.
Yeah, I think that's another thing.
That's the other thing.
That's the complaint I have in one of the other books.
Yeah, this is why I think it's not going to win the book prize, because I think, if I'm right, Crystal Sutherland is an American author who now lives in the UK. So because she lives in the UK, this is eligible for the YA Book Prize, because she's lived in the UK for a certain amount of time. But it's set in London. Doesn't read like London. They travel to Scotland at one point. Doesn't feel like Scotland. Reads very American.
The travel time is so quick. It's like they drive, but like we don't drive places. We get trains.
Yeah, but like even when we drive, it's a case that like...
It's such a faff because our country's so old. Nothing is a straight line.
And I think... If you're an American who has been used to the very intensely long distances between places, and then you're like looking at a map, if you're somebody who's travelled like very, very far different distances, and then you like travelled to Scotland, it might feel really quick. For British people, it still feels real fucking long, because that's not what we're used to. It's also the fact that the motorway is described as the highway. It's not. It's the motorway. It's the main road. Like
in the UK,
an A road possibly might
be. In the UK, the highway is defined as like basically any public road.
Yeah.
And it like includes like bridleways and footpaths and cars.
And I know it's just small things, but if this wasn't up for the YA Book Prize, it probably wouldn't bug me. But it's set in the UK and it doesn't feel like it is. And I think if it had been set in America, but it was up for the YA Book Prize, wouldn't have had a problem with it. It's just the fact that it's set in the UK and there's that kind of anachronism between the language that's being used. And it just makes it very jarring. Like, I was constantly getting thrown out of the story. This is one of the shortest books. This is the shortest book on the YA Book Prize. I thought we'd be able to read it in a day. I think we read 60 pages in a day, and then the most we managed after that was like 40 at the very most. To get through. Yeah, like it's very hard to get through, and yeah, it wasn't what I wanted it to be. Is all I can really say about that. I had
almost no expectations of it, so I think that's why I liked it.
I was so excited for this one because I loved Our Chemical Hearts, but this feels more... There's a lot of purple prose. It's very overly descriptive. It's very evocative. There's a lot of descriptions of the scenery and the scents and the feelings. And that's lovely and all, but it kind of... The plot suffers for that. And... Considering how short it is, that means that there's basically no plot whatsoever because most of this is just description rather than movement or action.
Yeah, so much happens in it, but like also not a lot happens.
Yeah,
because it's like big event, big event, big event, big event.
Yeah, there's not really a lot of the quieter moments.
So the saying I was going to say, in America, 100 years is a long time, but in the UK, 100 miles is a long way.
Yeah,
and that's so painfully true. Because like my mum lives hour and a half away, and like in America you'd be like, oh, that's like an easy date.
That's like the next town over.
Yeah, that's like your work. It's like your commute to work. But like that's like maybe like once a fortnight, once a month trip for us.
Yeah,
everything is just so close that it's like such a bizarre thing to go that far.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Which I think that doesn't help you stick in the book.
It just makes you so jarred. It would be interesting if there are any American viewers watching this who have read this book, if we could get your perspective on that. Because it might be something that just translates better in America. Be interesting to know. Should we move on?
To the next
yeah.
one? Jinx.
Jinxies.
It's like stupid minds think alike.
Skin of the
Sea by Natasha Bowen.
Congratulations.
Yeah. I can say that name.
So, there is a world here. A fantasy world.
She's a mermaid?
Basically.
Yeah. She's
This girl has been taken by slavers and put on a slave ship, and she has drowned. And when she drowns, a
sea goddess,
I can't remember her name. See if I can find out. Of course it's not going to be in the Yamoa. The sea goddess Yamoa, she's prayed to her all of her life, and Yamoa blessed her when she was born, and so Yamoa comes to her when she is drowning, and she gives her the chance to become something called a mamiwata. And if you are one of the mamiwata, then you patrol the seas, and you collect souls of people who are dying in the seas so that they can be blessed and they can be put to rest, even though their bodies won't be.
It's kind of like a combination between a mermaid and a ferryman.
Yeah, that's a good way of describing it.
Way to describe it.
But yes, so Simi, who is our main character, she is a mamiwata, and she's fine with doing her job until she comes across a boy who is drowning, and he is still alive, and she can't sit back and watch him drown, so she saves him.
She breaks the rules.
She breaks the rules that she doesn't know about, and we were both very frustrated by this.
I don't like this.
Because
I don't like this in real life. I've had many issues with people in real life because, like, if it's not a rule, how am I meant to enforce it like it's a rule, or act like it's a rule when it's not a rule that you've made? So
she goes to Yamoa and says, look, I saved this kid. I'm sorry. And Yamoa goes, but that's broken the
deal.
Pact. Oh, there's a special word for it. It's broken the deal that we had with the Supreme Creator. And Simi goes, well, you didn't tell me that was a thing. And Yamoa goes, well, I shouldn't have had to. And what fucking what? Okay, so you're
an
a sea goddess.
You're an old powerful being.
You know that so many people are dying in these waters that you need to have a dedicated team of mermaids who can collect their souls. And you don't think about the fact that potentially one of them might stumble upon somebody who is actively involved in the process of drowning rather than already being dead. I don't know why you wouldn't think, yeah, that's probably going to have to be one of the things I tell them during their induction on the first day, that they can't save people.
I'm assuming Mami Wata, like, she thinks humans, as soon as we hit water, we die, because water is scary. Like, no, we actually have to drown in the water to die.
It seems like one of those things that, like, if you were doing a risk assessment about your job and you were thinking, like, right, okay, what are the potentials of me finding somebody who is not dead? You'd be like, right, okay, that is a 10. There is a very, very high likelihood of that happening. So I'm definitely going to have to put some things in place to make sure that we know what to do in that situation.
Even if it's incredibly unlikely, the consequences, because I think
are very serious, serious consequences.
Mami Wata would be excommunicated from godhood?
I think it's a case that the Mami Wata would basically have to die.
Yeah.
Because the reason they are Mami Wata is because they've been kind of saved from death and transformed into Mami Wata, and it sounds like Yamoa would kind of have to give up the Mami Wata, so she wouldn't be allowed to have the Mami Wata anymore, and Yamoa would also be
punished,
severely punished. So like very serious consequences, something you definitely want to tell one of your newbies about. But it does give us a good plot, because then Simi has to go and find
the boys' tribe.
Well, she doesn't have to. So Cola wants to go home, quite clearly, because he has just been saved from death and he'd like to see his siblings and his family again. And there's a kind of... Oh, I've forgotten what they're called. But there's... all of my words have gone. The man. There's a man.
Should I stop the video?
Yeah.
We
can think. I'm going to flick through. Found the word Babalawo. So there is a Babalawo near Cola's village who knows of some special rings that will allow the wearer to communicate with the Supreme Creator. And so Simi needs to find this Babalawo so that she can work out where the rings are. And she can beg for forgiveness on Yamoa's behalf for her misdemeanors.
For her indiscretions.
Yeah. So... Cola's like, yeah, okay, I know this Babalawo. He is the local one to my village. So if you get me home, and then I'll get you to the Babalawo, and then you can go and talk to the Supreme Creator, and all will be Gucci. So Cola gets home, and his twin siblings have been kidnapped by... what's the guy's name? My brain is just really struggling with this one.
The messenger god.
Yeah, the messenger god. Asu. So Asu is the messenger. He's meant to be the one that passes on their messages to the Supreme Creator. And he has not been doing his job. He has a massive craving for power. So he's acting as though he is the Supreme Creator himself. And he is basically picking and choosing which messages to pass on. And doling out punishments and pretending that they are... handed down from the Supreme Creator. So Asu has actually kidnapped Cola's twin siblings because they are the ones who have the rings, because they are the embodiment of a god whose soul is like split into two. I think it's kind of the equivalent of, like, is it Gemini, which is the zodiac symbol with the twins? Because I think it's basically like another culture's equivalent of Gemini, when it's like two, like one soul in two bodies.
One thing this book has inspired me to read. Wasn't my favourite book, very painfully middle, but I'm more interested in like more gods. Because I like my god mythology and stuff.
I would admit, I didn't like it that much. Because it's very predictable.
It's very predictable. It's very slow as well.
Yeah, we can get spoilery because we already have been. Basically, when they get back to not Asu's village, Cola's village, there is a guy
who is new,
who suddenly gets written into it, and they're like, "This guy, he's accompanying you on your journey.
He can help you."
Okay, cool. He can help us. So Simi and this guy are like having a conversation, and Simi's like talking about Asu, and the guy's like, but did you know this about Asu, and did you know that about Asu? Like, proper debunking some of their myths.
Tell me your stories and I'll see what I know about the stories myself.
And I said to Sean, I was like, I think he is Asu. I think Asu is masquerading as this guy so that he can, like, lull them into a false sense of security, and, like, they'll take him to the twins, and then because the twins will think he's their friend, the twins will, like, give over the rings. And yeah, I was 100% completely right. There's this really corny scene when, like, the voice changes behind them, and then they turn around and it's their friend speaking, and then his, like, face transforms back into Asu's face.
See, I think
and it happens so often. It's so cheese.
But I think that the transformation bit at the end, it's like just have this like really like harrowing like the end, like the final battle with the birds and like the like solving the riddle.
Oh yeah. So like there's some death. There is a sad death, and then this like, comes like right after that, and it's a very dramatic shift in tone.
It's what I am, as you would call it, it's like the marveling. Like you can't sit with a sad thing for too long, otherwise you'll be sad. So you have to like break it with like a joke or a tone shift really quickly afterwards. And it's like we're mature people. Like
we can just sit with sad.
Yeah, like even as a teenager, I'm like you can sit with sad. Like sad books are really popular, as Mr. Edgar Allan Poe would prove. Like some people, you can sit with emotions that aren't just happy.
I will say I am really looking forward to reading the sequel. I think this works well as a standalone, but it's left open at the end.
I forgot it was a sequel.
Yeah, it's satisfactory enough that you could read it as a standalone, and be happy with it like that. But I am going to be carrying on with this series, and I'm very interested and excited. I'm probably going to be reading it pretty soon, actually.
I think that'll be 50-50 for me.
I didn't think you were going to carry on.
I don't know.
Ooh.
I'm interested. I don't know.
Oh, I'm glad I haven't already started it, because I was tempted to, but then I didn't want that to impact the way that I talked about this one in case I got anything confused from the second book. I have an advanced copy on NetGalley. I'm not a wizard. I haven't just like randomly acquired a copy. Yeah, I wish, because it's not until December, I don't think. But yeah, Soul of the Deep, I think the second one's called, if anybody is interested in reading this duology. And also just a quick shout out to Owlcrate for this stunning edition. It's not very often that UKYA gets fancy editions, and especially not that it gets published in US book boxes. So when this was shortlisted, my jaw dropped because I didn't know it was UKYA. I had no idea, just assumed it was a debut American author. So really good to see some UKYA love in the
Can I just say I'm happy that this UK YA book got picked over Witches Steeped in Gold, which is a UK YA book box pick, because that is...
Yeah, we assumed that one was going to be up.
That was
because
like a no-brainer.
It was very, very hyped, and it was in Fairy Loot, and it was in Owlcrate, and it was one of the first UK YA books that really seemed to be getting a lot of traction over the pond. Pre-release. But then it's very badly edited, and there's a lot of pacing issues with it, so we were grateful to see that they'd gone with a different first book in a duology that had also been picked by a book box that was also a debut novel, because they're very similar books on the face of things, not plot wise. But yeah, I actually enjoyed this one a lot more than I thought I was going to, and I'm definitely carrying on with the series.
Yeah. Right, shall we
move on to the penultimate book?
Alice's favourite book.
Or is it though?
Oh yeah, we're gonna do ratings at the end.
Ratings at the end. So like it's definitely at the top, but is it my fave? Who knows? This is After Love by Tanya Byrne, and it's gorgeous. Okay, so there is a girl called Ash, and she falls in love with a girl called Poppy. They meet on a boat heading over to a wind farm on a school trip, and they fall very deeply in love very quickly.
Poppy is posh girl.
Poppy is a posh girl, and Ash is from like the rundown side of town. Has a very big family in a very small house.
It's meant to be London, but no,
Brighton.
Brighton, but it could be like kind of anywhere.
But it was funny
apart
because
from a few name drops.
They referenced the dome. They were like sat outside the dome, and I was like, oh, it's Brighton.
It was the plaza.
No, pretty sure it was the dome.
Yeah. But...
Oh, I don't know. You're making me second guess myself. Either way, they reference a venue, which is in Brighton. And I looked at Sean and I was like, it's Brighton. And he's like no.
How'd you know that?
There's like loads of those all around the country. And then 5 pages later, it's just like on the coast of Brighton. And I was just like, oh. Like I figured that out so well. I had no idea. But yes, Ash and Poppy are deeply in love. And they spend New Year's Eve together until Ash's mum calls her to get her to come home, because she's sneaked out to spend time with Poppy. And she has to go to the mini-mart to get some paracetamol for her dad on the walk home. So she walks into the mini-mart, walks out, and this girl who she doesn't know calls her name.
Confronts her right in the door or something.
And she's like, who the hell are you? Like, get out of my face. It's New Year's Eve.
With your
I just want to go home. and then a car crashes into the barrier outside the shop, and Ash is so close to being hit by it.
I almost died.
Yeah, she's like, oh, Jesus Christ, what the hell? Like, those guys, like, got out the car and, like, ran, and then she's like, you almost fucking killed me, and you're just getting out of the car and running. But then her friend, who works in the shop, comes outside, phones an ambulance, is just like, oh my god, somebody's been hit by a car. And she's like, oh no, somebody else has been stood outside the shop, until she looks down and sees her own body on the floor. Because Ash has died.
And she has a struggle to accept this, which is what about the first
which is
third or so?
Well, I don't think she actually dies until about halfway through.
Oh.
Like, it takes
too long.
Time.
It takes too long.
I loved it because knowing what it was about, I thought it was going to feel too rushed. I thought you were going to meet this girl, she was going to die really quickly. You weren't really going to care about her. But like
Kyron's Tea House?
Kyron's Crossing, yeah.
What's it called?
Oh, Kyron's Tea and Treats.
No, the story.
Under a Whispering Door. Under the Whispering Door.
Because
they do that.
He dies before.
Literally chapter 2.
Yeah.
So chapter 1 is meeting the character, and then is his name Wallace?
I think so.
And then chapter 2 is, and he's dead now. So that really works for Under the Whispering Door.
Yeah.
I think that the way that it then plays out afterwards is perfect. But I'm glad that this one did exactly the opposite, because you get to know Ash so well, and you get to see her family and her interactions with her friends.
She's alive.
Yeah, and then you get
2.
to see her meeting Poppy and falling in love with Poppy. And at the end of the day, this is Ash and Poppy's story. It isn't the story of Ash being a Reaper. It isn't the story of Ash dying. It is Ash and Poppy's love story with death. And I think it's beautiful. I love that. Sean was like, there's not really much reaping. I wanted it to be more fantasy, but I
like fantasy, alright.
I wanted a lesbian romance, and I got a lesbian romance. And
to be fair, I think it is the best. It's the bestest, well-writtenest lesbian romance I've read in a book for a long time.
Yes, this is...
Because normally they're very cliche and like stereotypical, and it's like, release that rolls eyes.
If I'm honest, I think that it's one of my favourite lesbian romances ever. There's something about lesbian YA romances that they always seem to have sad endings, or some kind of trauma, or some kind of upset.
Cathartic release. You need to cry.
Yeah. But, like, I love the fact that this one kind of has that, kind of twists it on its head. Because, like, you know that Ash dies, but her and Poppy actually end up getting to
experience afterlife,
reconnect in the afterlove,
and as a Reaper and a human.
Yeah. So, well, for a bit.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
It is. That good chunk of the book is Ash being dead and Poppy being alive.
Yeah, but I just loved it. I don't have enough words to say how much I loved this. I don't know what it was about it. I felt like weeping within the first, like, 2 chapters, and that was before it even got sad. I just said to Sean, I looked at him and I was like, I want to cry. And he's like, why? And I'm like, because it's everything I wanted it to be. And he was like, how did you know you were going to love this so much? And I was like, I don't know, I just did. I just did. Oh my god. Oh my god, he's ruining our setup.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Just kick the laptop.
Why wouldn't you?
I think the reason why it's a good story and I enjoy it is the other 2 Reaper. So there's a bookshop where the Reapers go. Ash and the other 2, the girl that reaped her, and another girl who shares a name similar to the head Reaper of the bookshop.
Deborah.
Deborah's
the head Reaper.
Yeah. Deb.
There's Essen and Deb. Yeah.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember.
I like the dynamic of all 4 of them, or most between all 4 of them, and the 3 Reapers. It's quite nice. I mean, that's very enjoyable.
You will never have read it, and you will never read it, but it kind of gave me vibes of a book called The Dead Girls Detective Agency, I think, by a lady called, I want to say it was Deborah Cox, because that was a similar thing. Like, someone died, and you had to be part of this team solving the murders before you could get your key to then pass on yourself, which was a cool concept. And it kind of gave me vibes of that, because that was like a group of girls who were kind of very close, good interactions between them solving these murders. And I know they don't solve murders, they just kind of collect the souls and pass them on.
This is not toxic female relationship, this is good, healthy female
yes,
energy.
100%.
Healthy femaleness.
Yeah. It's giving support.
It's healthy femininity. That's the word.
Yeah.
Femininity. It's really good.
I love
example of that.
everything about this. And I will say, as soon as the cover got revealed, like way back, the cover came out, I think, like a year before the book actually published. And I remember saying to Sean, that's going to be shortlisted for the Way Book Prize, and that's probably going to win. And he was like, what? And I was like, yeah, just based off of the cover, it's going to be shortlisted, and it's going to win.
Yeah.
I don't know if it will win, but that was what I said when I first saw this cover. And having read the contents of the book, definitely a contender. Definitely one of my favourites, if it's not my top position.
Alright. I have to reevaluate my list. We made a list of our top 10.
We did.
Or how we'd arranged the 10.
And I'm feeling more and more cemented and firm in my belief as the video goes on, which is nice. Because I thought, when we first started, I was like, oh no, I've done it all wrong. But I think I'm right.
I think, well, I don't know if you, but I had a bottom, I had a top, and I had mediocre in the middle.
Yeah, it's like my top 2 are very solid. My bottom 3 are very solid, and then all the ones in the middle is just kind of amorphous blobs. They're all very much the same level for me. So actually trying to separate them has been very hard.
Yeah.
But we got there. I think we're doing it, and now we're moving on to the last book, which was my second reread. And Sean's first read
The
of
Ace of Spades
by Farida Abike-iyimide.
I'm glad you pronounced that.
Thank you.
This is a UK author writing in American, and it's quite painfully American in parts.
It is, yeah.
Which again, like, I don't know. I honestly, because she got this published in America first.
I believe so. From what I can gather, she got the US book deal first. The UK book deal followed straight afterwards. But it was published in America about a month or 2 before it was published over here. That's if I'm remembering correctly, because this did come out at the beginning of last summer or the end of last spring. So it has been out for over a year now. It's been out for over a year, and I can remember that because they've released the anniversary edition already.
Oh.
Because apparently we do 1-year anniversary editions of books now.
Gotta get that money
which is
from your
new,
dying industry.
But like...
Collector's gonna collect.
I will be honest, I'm tempted. Like, there's an extra bonus chapter in it, and I'm like... I quite
Is
like
it gonna be
the
the
summer
same one?
edition. It's probably... No, it's not going to be... It's called the summer edition. Why is there going to be a New Year's Eve chapter?
Oh, true. It could be a previously chapter.
Ooh, maybe.
I don't like... I don't like content being restricted to locations by whether it's like regional for countries or like editions of books.
Pre-order incentives.
Yeah,
that
pre-order
are
incentives.
like...
I have lived through video games and pre-orders, and like it's not
But,
good.
like,
so
when
that hatred is carried on over.
When it's like a short story. So, off topic, but Memento by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. For like the first 2 years, you could only read that story
That's
if you'd
from...
ordered Obsidio.
Yeah, it's from the
Yeah.
Luminae files.
It was, if you'd pre-ordered Obsidio, then you've got like a little booklet of it. And then I think it was like the 2-year anniversary of it that they released it on ebook. But it seems like a bit of a bummer when it's like, well, you don't feel like you can get the complete story because
like, that
you'd end up like, especially when it comes to like Sarah J. Maas exclusive chapters, you'd have like 10 copies of the same book just
Lee
so
Child
you could get all the different chapters.
Lee Child is the exact same, but because people don't like it in like military books, so like there's like so many free copies of all these chapters because like it's not liked.
It was a nice surprise though, because when I first read Ace of Spades, I read it on the library app because I didn't want to read my physical red Spade Pages edition because I didn't want to mess it up. And the copy on the library app, the waitlist was too long for us to read it, so we read this edition, and then we discovered a bonus chapter at the end that I had no idea I'd had the whole time. So I did get to read something new, but we can't rate that on this because it's not actually technically part of the story. But should we actually talk about the book instead of just extras?
So it's the 2 black kids at a private school in America.
Or everybody else is white.
Yeah.
Devon and Chiamaka.
They're basically all legacy kids.
Yeah.
And Devon is from quote unquote the wrong side of the tracks. Mm-hmm. And how do you say the name? Chiamaka.
That's I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Please do correct me if I am pronouncing it incorrectly, because I'm just doing it based off of how she describes it in the book.
Okay.
Because she breaks down the syllables to show people the pronunciation.
Yeah.
Hope I'm doing that right.
Chiamaka.
Chiamaka.
It's too similar to Michael Schumacher, and I like racing. This is my issue. Names are too similar to other names that messes with my brain.
Call her Chi. Because
Chi.
they
Yes.
do call her Chi
Okay,
throughout
I'll go
it. So
for Chi.
Chi.
Chi. She is from a very well-to-do family.
It just sounds like you're saying she.
It's from a very well-to-do family.
Chucky.
The feng shui is all wrong here.
Please. Let's just go. But yeah, Chi's family is very rich, so she has a very large house. Like, she literally has her own dressing room, as well as her bedroom and her bathroom. And she's got her own cinema room that she's, like, designed herself. It's got, like, 3 rows of plush grey armchairs and, like, the little recessed lights in the ceiling that look like stars. Like, she do be rich, but
rich. So
she's still black. So she is still targeted.
She's not a legacy kid either.
And no, she's not a legacy kid. But Aces seems to be just targeting Devon and Chiamaka, and both of them wonder why to start with, but they quickly realise...
They think it's because... Chi thinks it's because she's popular, and she's stood on a lot of people to get to her popularity.
Yes.
And... Devon, sorry. Thinks it's because he is a scholarship kid from the wrong side of the tracks.
Yeah, so they both think that there are reasons for them being targeted, but
because when they're targeted to begin with, it's like Devon and Stephen or something. It's Scotty, his ex. And it's like,
and it's a guy that she also dated. So it's like they think it might be something to do with him.
It's like they are the main focus, but it's the people around them are also hit by the like
caught up in the furore.
The like gunshot of. Of meanness.
So it's interesting because Devon is the first one who thinks like maybe it's to do with our skin colour, and then it takes Chi a while to really think of it. But when they do, they kind of decide that they're going to team up and get to the bottom of it together.
That's when they start like teaming up.
Yeah, and when they do team up and start exploring Aces together, they actually realise that it's a conspiracy of the entire school, and has been going since I think 1965. Every 10 years, the school will accept 2 black students. They'll be left alone for their first 3 years, and then when they're getting into their senior year, they will have gathered all of the dirt on them, and they sabotage them. They spread secrets and rumours and lies, and they ruin their lives so that they have no choice but to drop out of college. Because I think Terrell says it best when he says that it's like you can't have the dream of Caucasianville, that it's not allowed for you.
Seems like that's something that you wouldn't... That was a interesting line to be published in the book.
I thought it was a good way of summing it up, though, because it's like... The way that Aces and Niveus look at it is the fact that they're white and they're the legacy kids, and they're allowed to have that success because their parents had it and their grandparents had it and their great-grandparents had it, and that's why they're all allowed to be there. And like one of Devon's friends is also a poor kid. He's a scholarship kid, and he kind of gets involved in Aces because he feels quite threatened by Devon, because he thinks that he had to work really hard to get his scholarship, but Devon would have got it anyway because of affirmative action. And it's very interesting to see like how different areas are kind of being targeted, because Jack's being dragged into it, and there's rumours spread about Jack as well, and he has to kind of just grin and bear it because he knows the reasoning behind it all.
But he's being paid off so his family can have a better life.
He's
getting, it doesn't know what she said, but he's definitely he's getting money.
But it's a case that like, even though he's also not like one of them, he's one of them in the way that it like counts.
Yeah, he's like being smeared with the same brush, but because he's not the target, they're happy to smear him.
Yeah.
Because he's poor.
I think it's really well written. I think it's a very great story, and
it has a lot of pacing issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did the first time around. The first time I read this, I think I got about 200 pages in, and then I just put it down, and it took me 10 months to finish it, and I thought that rereading it was going to be an absolute nightmare, because it had felt like a slog the first time around. But this is definitely a great book for rereading, because where you can see more of the foreshadowing, and you've got more of an idea of what's going on, you can really enjoy it a lot more second time around. So I feel like my rating definitely went up second time around, and if I'd been ranking it based off of my first read, it wouldn't have been as high up as it is on my list.
I like the mystery
Mm-hmm.
is quite good. Again, I think it's tougher from the fact that I don't know if I read too many mysteries or they're too predictable. But you sort of see some things coming and it's like, oh my god, how could that be? It's like,
Yeah, there are some very predictable bits.
And like sometimes it's like, I don't know if the character is unaware or they're just being really, really dumb.
Yeah, because there are some bits that they should see coming and like not trusting certain people and
that's
possibly
one good
trusting
thing.
other
Basically,
people.
every single body apart from their parents betrays them.
Yeah, like you can't trust anybody
off.
in this book, and it puts you so on edge. Like
your,
every single character that comes into it, you're second guessing, triple guessing.
Your new boyfriend, your best friends, your...
And I think that's really clever because it does make you look twice at everybody. And sometimes there's like background characters.
Of authority,
yeah, there's background characters or there's figures of authority that you know will be trustworthy. But with this book, you really do suspect everyone.
Yeah, when... I can't remember his name. The guy, Devon, when his teacher betrays him,
Mr. Taylor.
I was like, because I was like, oh, he's just gonna be like completely unaware that this like thing is happening.
It was very funny because Sean and I had this conversation when I'd said you can't trust anybody a couple of days before, and Sean had said, oh well, like he can trust Mr. Taylor because Mr. Taylor's obviously just got no idea what's going on.
Yeah, because it's so common for figures of authority, especially in like YA books,
to just be completely bamboozled.
It's like I can't remember who said it, but people were like, where are the parents in this mystery book? And like the parents are just like not there because it's a book for children about children with children things. It's fantasy-ish.
I think that might have been about Murder Most Unlikely, like, to be honest.
It's something you can apply to so many books so easily.
But yeah, I just find it really funny because Sean's like, yeah, you can trust him, and I was like, wow, it really is written well if Sean's just like, you can trust that guy, because Sean always figures it out.
But then there's like the news people, I'm like, can you really trust them though? Especially at this point in the book, I'm like, you can't trust them. Like, you've already proven that you can't trust anybody.
But I do think that there's a lot going on in this one, and it's very well written. Like, I'm looking forward to reading more of Farida's writing in the future, because this is a debut novel, and I think, especially for a debut, to have a dual perspective book where you've got two characters with very distinctive voices, very different, you get a lot more of the story because of that. So you get to see Chi, who is, like, almost on the inside of it because she's got such close, intense connections with these people that she kind of can't believe it when they betray her.
Most of the small childhood friends.
But Devon was from, like, where he's a scholarship kid, he grew up with other people and then he moved to this school. So you get to see, like, the outsider's perspective and the insider's perspective. So it's very interesting to see the contradiction between those two. I will be honest and say that I do think that the epilogue ruins it a little bit.
Yeah, the epilogue makes Chia into a villain.
Yeah.
A villain origin. It's like,
it's
wow,
not really necessary.
You're meant to be a good character and you basically become a villain, which is grand.
But I think there's, like, it's a time jump and there's a letter at the start of the epilogue and then a chapter from each perspective. I kind of just wish that we'd had the letter and then nothing else because I think it would have been more impactful. I also feel like it all just wraps up a little bit too neatly.
Yeah.
Like, we've got...
There's a school...
The school burns down. And then Chiamaka's kind of main antagonist, if you will, perishes in the fire. And I kind of think it might have been better if that had been left a bit more open-ended. Like I know it would have been cheesy and it would have been a bit corny, but if it had been like, did he survive or not? And they don't know, and like, will he come back in the future and get them again?
Also, like,
like, knowing that the whole school was involved in it and only 3 people die, you do kind of think, like, god damn, there's got to be like, we need something more to be able to know that these people are getting justice served to them. Because it kind of feels like everybody else gets off with it really easily.
But it's true to life, not everyone.
Yeah, that's true. It is true to life. But, like, I also find that I feel a bit frustrated because you don't know what goes on with some of the characters. Like, you don't hear from Jack again, you don't hear from Belle again. It's a case that, like, the school burns down and then that's kind of like, it's done. Like, we know that somebody dies in the fire.
Yeah.
But, like, we don't hear from Ruby again. Like, there's quite a lot of people in this that I'd be interested to see more from. And it feels like it ends very abruptly when it gets to that point.
I didn't like the fact that the school burns down. That both Devon and Chia are like, oh, we've solved it all. I'm like, you know you haven't.
Yeah, like,
you know,
those people are going to go to other schools and they are not going to have learned their lesson at all. And, like, those teachers are going to go and work in other places. Like,
you already know it's like a conspiracy across different schools.
Yeah, having the time jump makes sense because it means that they're, like, able to do more work in the future because they're grown-ups. But I kind of feel like there's a story in between the end and the epilogue that is really, really missing. And I want to get my teeth into that a bit more.
Did you enjoy it?
I did. I enjoyed it more second time around. I will say that.
I don't think I would read it second time.
Oh, see, I'm glad I did.
It's a mystery. It's hard to read mystery.
Yeah, I always like mysteries more the second time around because you can appreciate the writing more because you can get the foreshadowing, and you're not questioning the plot so much as like enjoying it. So I think that's probably why I enjoyed it more second time around. But it's definitely one that I do highly recommend. And again, a very, very strong debut, and it's great to see a lot of kind of upcoming and new name authors in this list. That's three, I think.
I think so.
And then there's quite a few authors that it's just their second book, so like it's good to see some new names coming out in the UK YA scene.
Right, shall we cut and then do our rankings?
We don't even need to cut, we can just do the rankings if you're ready. You need to go to the bathroom. Okay,
yeah,
fine.
I'm wrong.
So, are you ready?
Pardon me. Yes.
So, in 10th place, if you go first and then I'll go, and then on the next one.
Honey and Issues Guide to Fake Dating is my bottom pick.
The Upper World by Temi Fadugba. As I said, I don't have a sciencey brain. So then in 9th place, I've put The Crossing.
I've put First Day of My Life. Yeah, 2 books.
A twist!
Two books as toxic female relationships. Okay. I think I just couldn't get over the.
Oh no, that means the yearbook's going to be your next one. In 8th place,
The Crossing.
Oh, okay. Oh, so we both rated that. So
basically, my bottom 2, and like basically from here until like the top 2 are all could be easily interchanged.
Okay.
They're so like they're all middling and mediocre. I think.
My 8th was House of Hollow.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, that's kind of like, those were the 3 I liked the least. The next one still kind of like a bit of a lower one. And then it gets to my middling section. Okay. And what did you put? Wait, or what did I put 7th?
Yes.
Skin of the Sea.
So I put. Oh, mine says 13 because I started at 10. I was like, 9. They didn't like me. My 7th is also Skin of the Sea.
Oh, snapsies! Yeah. Oh, I think that's the first time we've ever done that. Yeah. How cool.
I mean, last year we had it when our winner was the same.
But yes, that's true. Our winner was the same. Yeah.
And I think our second was also
was the same, yeah.
Yeah.
6.
Aces.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever it's called.
Ace of Spades.
Ace of Spades, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a twist.
Oh.
My 6th was the one that I want.
Okay.
5th, for me, was Harley and Issue's Guide to Fake Dating.
I just said Aces. So my next one is Upper World.
You put that like... Oh, that's funny though.
Why?
Because Harley and Issue was your bottom, and Harley and Issue was my 5th, and the Upper World was my bottom, and the Upper World was Sean's 5th. That's quite spooky.
We have different tastes.
Yeah.
We're different people.
That's just funny that we've put them in like interchange them.
I just realised my list has 2 19s, which is confusing.
4th?
Yes. Afterlife.
After Love.
After Love.
Ace of Spades. As I said, that went up. If that had been based off of my first read, it probably would have been between House of Hollow and Skin of the Sea. Possibly between Skin of the Sea and the other one that I want, but it would have been a bit lower down. 3rd place for me was First Day of My Life.
3rd place for me was the Donuts book.
You're the one that I want.
That's what it's called, yes.
The donut book. Oh my god, Sean.
It's the donut book. If you watch our vlog when we put that up,
the donut book.
Donuts. It has donuts.
Oh, good lord.
Zach, no. Jeff, no.
Freddie
turns
up with Tesco's strawberry jam donuts.
And he has donuts a lot.
He
but
does.
not to be confused with the other donut book, The First Day of My Life.
There is also donuts in there, so it's Krispy Kremes.
But those are gross Krispy Kremes.
Second, for me.
This is locked.
Wait, were we on second?
Yeah. Second for me is House of Hollow.
I knew you said you liked it, but fuck.
Oh
my god!
I don't know, like, it was a toss-up between Donuts and House of Hollow.
Oh my god, I know what your top is.
I like the potential too much.
Oh my god, I know what your top is.
Is your top going to be the same as...
No!
Your top's going to be Afterlove then?
The yearbook's second for me,
Ooh.
yeah. Afterlove was my winner.
Oh.
But they are literally interchangeable. I
have that was my second and third. Donuts and HH are so interchangeable.
Really? Oh my god.
Yeah. I think I just left
So you made the yearbook your winner?
Yeah.
Which means we don't even need to work out scores, because if it was first for you
I will
and
put
second
them
for
on
me,
the screen, probably.
Yeah, but
With
if
the
it was
rankings.
first for you and it was second for me, then like, oh my god.
Mm.
Well then that's good, because what did we do last year, huh?
We snapped on the top and the bottom.
No. So my top last year was Bethany Retter's Melt My Heart, but based off of how we worked it out with the scoring, State of Sorrow by Melinda Salisbury was our winner.
Yes.
So we technically got to have both as the winner. So those were the two I was trying to choose between. Which means this year, the yearbook has won based off of our combined votes. But I've managed to make Afterlove my personal winner. So both of my favourites have won again. I am happy. I am a happy egg. I mean, this isn't the official winner of the prize, and we still have to wait for 2 days to find that out, and I'm scared. Well, no, technically, if this goes up on Tuesday, then we have to wait until tomorrow, and if this goes up on Wednesday, we will find out later. So, whenever you are watching this, it is Wednesday evening. I will find out quickly. Hold on.
It's currently...
Don't leave.
9:43,
Like,
and I still have the book box battle that should have gone up on Tuesday.
Yeah, we have too much going on.
So, yeah.
So I will quickly find out when the winner is being announced so that you can join in with the excitement. I should really have that like off the top of my head, but I know it's Wednesday. That's all I've already got for you. They've moved the time. I'm pretty sure it's an evening one and it used to be a lunchtime one because it's at the Edinburgh Book Prize.
It used to be Yelk.
It's not even on Wednesday, it's on Thursday. We've got an extra
Oh my
day.
gosh.
Oh my fucking god, we've got an extra day.
Oh my god, I don't have to lose sleep two nights in a row.
I feel so stupid because I've got Wednesday off. I booked Wednesday off and I did not book Thursday off. That's fine. When is the winner announced? Apart from Thursday? It doesn't say. Why does it not say? Oh, okay, it's announced between 5:30 and 7. That's fine, because I finish at 6. So I can run home. But yes, between 5:30 and 7 on the 25th, not the 24th, of Thursday, not Wednesday, of August. So, this Thursday, make sure that you are around on Twitter or whichever social media platform that you like to use from 5:30 to find out whether we have managed to successfully predict the winner or not.
Should we try and get live streaming set up?
We can try.
I could take the children out. And you can
God,
do that
we
stuff
could.
live. You can do a live reaction.
We can see how we go. But yes, thank you for joining us for this ridiculously long discussion. I hope that you enjoyed it. Thank you for participating in it with me. I'm trying to shake her hand.
Oh, okay.
Like, yes, we are good. We are good game show competitors. We are Sean and Alyce.
Yeah.
We are the Bumbling Blogger.
Yeah,
if you liked this video, please give it a like. If you have read the shortlist, then please pop your thoughts down in the comments. If you've read any of these books, if you had fun, what are you doing here? We've just spoiled all of them for you, and we're really sorry. But we did warn you about the spoilers at the beginning.
Yeah. So again, thank you for joining us. If you agree with us, let us know. If you didn't like us, if you didn't agree with us and disliked it, thank you for making this far in the video. And we'll see you next time.
Yes, and also please subscribe. We're so close to 1,000. Like, what is going on? Why are you
We're
here?
less than 50.
Thank you for your continued support.
Subscribe.
And yes, remember to check back next year for our next YA Book Prize discussion, because there will be another one in 2023. Bye.
Yeah, and that was an absolute faff one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Just a bit slightly higher. Oh, other side.
That was fun. I love you.
I love you
right,
too.
Are you ready?
Right. Should we put the books down?
Yes. I'm like down.
Yeah.
Down
Right.
in an earlier
High five?
round.